You are now listening to the Be Your Own #LoveGoals podcast with Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
We just want you to remember that every person, regardless of identity, wants these three things: belonging, authenticity, and love.
And after a decade of partnership, we've learned to co-create these things and so much more.
So from wherever you're listening, we're going to go on a journey of becoming our own #LoveGoals. Now let's get into this episode. You are now listening to the Be Your Own Love Goals podcast. I'm Moe Ari, and this is
Tiffany.
Thank you all so much for joining us. We've been just over here getting a really good laugh.
Yeah. Always laughing.
Because this episode is about exes. And how can you not laugh when you're talking about exes? No, I'm kidding. Man. I have mad love for the people who have come into my life to help me to grow, to evolve, and to become even more of my authentic self on this journey. So I want to start by just offering some love and some positivity toward all the people who have ever had to be in a relationship with me. So I just want to start with that gratitude, because I know a lot of times when we talk about exes, we can be like ragging on them. But I have actually a lot of people in my life that I've dated that I just honor and respect a lot as people. So I'm gonna start with that.
That was very sweet, Mo. You did not have to do that about exes. About your exes.
I think they be listening. So if you listening,
okay, they probably heard you.
Just know that I am appreciative of you for being on this journey with me and loving me dearly. And even if we haven't talked in a very long time, that I'm probably thinking of you and sending you love and joy.
How do you manage to still be poetic when you're talking about your exes? That's love.
And that's
compassion.
And that's it. I think that's what I want to talk about, because for me, love doesn't go away, right?
Yeah.
Okay, scientific fact. I love that about from the Dead Ass podcast. He'll say scientific fact.
I love it.
Matter is not created or destroyed, only changed in form, right?
Yep.
So you think about love, it's a constant. It's like this infinite quality. It doesn't go away just because the relationship ends. It changes in form. And I've said this previously on this podcast, but I'm just thinking like that love doesn't go away. So what do you do with it? You might imbue something else with that love. And that's what I think the goal is when you're moving on from a relationship, is to love again. But sometimes I think what prevents us from moving on is that we don't do anything else with that love. And we expect that love to go away. But love is like, psych, I am not going away. So many of us are like not over our exes because we haven't figured out what to do with that love. And loving again after you've been hurt is hard.
Baby, say it again.
And the more fully you leaned in that previous relationship, the more hurt you're going to feel when it ends, and especially if it ends poorly.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about what it means to be over your ex.
Yeah.
What it's like to feel like we're not done with the ex, but we really want to be done, and we're in a new relationship and we want to be connected. Do you have any thoughts about this, Tiff, as you're listening to me talk? I know I started with compassion and that threw you off.
You really did.
Because you were ready to go in.
I'm a Cancer, okay?
A Gemini, baby. You a freak. You do it for the fun, baby.
But if you know anything about Cancers hold grudges. And, I don't hate any of my exes. However, sometimes it has been difficult for me to speak of them in the ways that you have. And I think it's not that I don't honor and appreciate the love. I think, honestly, it was from a place of not feeling like I was over them, or that there was the closure that I wanted there. And I was going to say that I feel like the journey of, quote unquote, getting over your ex is one that is so variable from person to person.
Yeah.
I think, how the relationship ended, if it was amicable.
Yeah.
if infidelity was involved or any sort of grievance that was involved that was like a no-no for
I don't
you,
know.
then all of those things impacted. And then
Yeah.
also, you know, were you married? Like, is this as a result of a divorce? Do you have children? Like, it's so many factors that play into that. And I
Mhm.
think really how that relationship ends for me as a person who really, 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 really desires closure,
Mhm.
until I get that and until I realize that I am the only person that can give that to myself sometimes, then I would say I've struggled in this arena, and I would just say it's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's been a journey.
Now, I have the added benefit of being a little bit more of a lot to work with or deal with in a relationship.
Mhm.
So I have to be self-reflective when I end a relationship.
Yeah.
I've had to be in that seat of like, oof, what was it like to be in a relationship with me?
Yeah.
And now I think for you, not that you don't do it, Tiffany does plenty of things now,
Hey,
but I
don't be
think
putting me out on Front Street like that.
but she is certainly
Dang.
yeah, she is certainly not a fire sign. So
Mm-mm.
the way that she shows up in relationship is very like nurturing and compassionate.
Mhm.
And I think I've probably been the person that's got on her nerves the most in a relationship. So the way that she shows up with me is certainly not how she'll show up with anybody else. I think
Mhm.
she mostly, from how I've gotten to witness you, that you're very much like patient, empathic, compassionate, truthful,
Mhm.
honest. From how I've gotten to witness you, you're very much truthful, honest, caring, compassionate, empathic, and all these other great
Mhm.
qualities. So I know you show up to a relationship with others in these very
Mhm.
so I know you show up for others in these very compassionate and caring ways.
Mhm.
Um for me, I know I leave relationships though being like, "Ooh, I know I was a time."
Yeah.
Not that I just do so many things,
Mhm.
but that I've had plenty of growing edges.
Yeah.
And of course, I know that you are also self-reflective,
Mhm.
self-aware. It's not
For
like you just do
sure.
nothing in relationship,
Right.
but it's probably a little bit more of a level playing field.
Mm.
Whereas for me, it has felt like we have equally contributed to what has
Mhm.
happened here.
Mhm. Mhm.
And a lot of times it's not bad,
Yeah.
but sometimes I feel like it has been very intense,
Mm.
and I have definitely played my part, which puts me in a place of having to be very self-accountable, self-reflective, and um, hold a lot of love and compassion for them
Mhm.
going through that with me
Mhm.
because they didn't have to, but they
Yeah, they
chose
do not.
to. And even choosing to end the relationship is a completion that you have to go through
Mhm.
together. They could have
Yes.
held on
Exactly.
and not let me go, but that
Mhm.
completion was also what they went through with me, and so I have to just hold some
Right.
gratitude.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just such a when even thinking about getting quote unquote getting over your ex, as you were talking and as I've been sitting here, I've been really pondering the question. I know we're gonna move on to the next segment of do you ever really get over your ex? Is that like the most appropriate classification of what that is?
Yeah,
Getting over, or if love is neither created or destroyed, but changes in form,
yeah.
is getting over our ex moving the energy in some different way? Because I feel like that energy or that love.
Come on, Empress Tiffany, with the spiritual, metaphysical analogies here. Is it just moving the energy? Go ahead, speak on it.
That energy though and that love, where does it go? Where does it go? Like, if do I ever really get over them? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm just sitting with that. And so I think I'll just hold that through this episode.
It depends on what you consider about love, and everybody would have a different spiritual, because love is a very spiritual energy. So I like to talk about this in a spiritual context. Everybody would have a different understanding of that. Now, mind you, I didn't say religious, and you will not hear me saying religious on this podcast because everybody's relationship to that is even different. Spirituality meaning just our energy, our spirit, our soul, that journey that we all are on as humans. That's what I mean when I say spiritual. It's very non-denominational. Do not hear me saying something that is like religious. Very non-denominational in that regards. When I say spiritual, love has this very spiritual quality, meaning that it transcends just this human part of us. So it would really depend on our own relationship to spirituality, what happens to that love. Because for some people, it could be almost that like love is a frequency that you tap into and you can tap out of in certain relationships. For some people, love is a bond that connects or ties people together infinitely. Some they might call them soul ties. Some people might feel that love is our physical embodiment, that we are love. And by bringing our full selves to relationship, we are also just being love. That love is not something you tap into. That's not something you give. That we just are love. And when love gets together, we're just love together. The byproduct of love is love. So it really depends on it really depends on your spiritual orientation toward that. So I threw out all of those examples to let you think about what it means for you to end a relationship and ask yourself this question Tiffany is asking: where does that love go? Get first clear on what you even understand about love between people. And then I think we can answer that. Do you have an answer off the top of your head for your own spiritual understanding?
I lean more towards you don't ever get over them. I think get over kind of almost feels like an escape. Like I'm putting it over here and not thinking about it anymore and it's over there. And I personally feel like for me, some part of like grief and mourning the loss of a person or expectation or whatever the thing is that you have to get through it.
Now you just said something profound, so I'm gonna back the train all the way back up.
Now hopefully I ain't forget what I said.
No, I remember. Because what you brought up was the word grief. And that is profound in itself, right? Let's just the word grief in the same conversation as we're talking about relationships ending. I know me and you talk like that, but just bringing it into this space, I felt like somebody listening is going to be like grief. Because grief, when we are ending a relationship, is a real thing. So I want you to just speak to that some more because I don't want you to slide grief. And grief is a big part of your experience.
And I think that we often can see grief as a person dying, they're no longer here. And for a long time, I felt like that's the only way that you could experience grief. And as I have reflected upon my life, particularly over the past couple of years, I've realized how many things or situations can bring up grief. You can grieve a person that you're no longer in relationship with, like an ex, even though they might still be alive and walking around this earth. You can also grieve expectations that you might have, things that you might have wanted to happen that are no longer happening in that way. And so I think that in my grief journey, in order to really understand and be at peace with the people that I've lost or no longer in relationship with, I've had to literally go through the pain of it. And not just get over it. Well, my grandfather passed away when I was very young. So, a father figure to me that was super close. I didn't really understand the grief and how it would impact me. But later in life, I realized how much I just tried to get over his death.
Mm.
Meaning I was like blacking out the pain, but I also blacked out the pleasure that, the memories brought, or the different things about him that I really enjoyed and loved and probably disconnected from in my own present life. And so I think what I'm trying to say here is that I feel like you don't necessarily ever get over your ex.
Yeah.
However, it is important to get through your ex, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So get through the pain, get through whatever difficulty might have happened so that you can get on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I just totally steered this conversation in a different direction.
I'm just sitting with the human journey, because what you're getting at with your experience with your grandfather
Mhm.
is that your earlier experiences around grief taught you a lot about how you're going to deal with pain throughout your lifetime. So
Yes.
anybody listening who is curious about getting over an ex, or what you all do in the end of a relationship, any experience you have with grief can tell you what your process is going to be.
Mhm.
And so then you already know what it is that you're going to be dealing with, or how you're
Mhm.
going to have to work through in order to
Exactly.
heal that.
Mhm.
That was one thing that stood out to me.
Mhm.
And I think something else that stood out to me is something around our process. Mm, As you were saying, getting through the ex, it's almost like what is an ex? An ex is a severing of a relationship.
Mhm.
It's almost like I picture something being X'd out.
Yeah.
And so when you say getting through the X, I think of that as this transition period.
Mm. Mhm.
They weren't your ex when you were dating them.
They were not.
So it's you getting through the transition of that
Yeah.
relationship.
Mhm.
When I hear you saying getting through the X, getting through the transition period
Right.
of the relationship, going from being in that relationship to not being in that
So that
relationship.
change in form of love
That
that you were
change in
talking about,
form, getting
getting through
through
that.
that, that's
Yes.
the X period.
Exactly. And that is not easy.
That is not easy.
Baby. Yeah. I think
Mm,
that's powerful, and I feel like that's what it is, because 'cause I'm like, you don't really get over them, like, it's a little bit more nuanced than that, and I think that's what you're getting at, like,
yeah,
really getting through that transition,
yeah,
that change in form.
yeah.
Mhm.
Think about, so many of us have friends who maybe we're not friends with now, but they benefited our lives in some
Mhm.
way, or we really enjoy them. We think of them from time to time. Those relationships were really solid, so they still mattered and they meant something to
Mhm.
us. I think the rush to get over someone, or to be done completely with their likeness, image, or the thought of them,
Yeah.
has to do with our response to that pain,
Mm.
because we don't want to keep feeling the pain of longing.
Yeah.
And me and you have been there, right? Like,
Mhm.
we know
Mhm.
this very, very well.
Mhm.
And when we don't want to deal with that, I think that's when we go, I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal
Exactly.
with their likeness. I don't want to deal with anything that reminds me of them.
Mhm.
And the work then becomes to really deal with grief.
Mhm.
Now, I've got this question here.
Mhm.
Um, because we've got a lot to get to in this episode.
Yeah, and I was about to go on something else, and Imma just have to save that. Yes.
Because there are so many ways that we
Yeah.
can identify that we're not over an ex.
Mhm.
And so I just want to list them out, and then I'll let Tiffany take us into our question that needs
Okay.
answers. But some ways that we can know that we're not over an ex: constant thoughts and memories,
Mhm.
comparing others to our ex,
Mm.
emotional reactions,
Yeah.
checking our ex's social media, reaching out repeatedly, avoiding closure, idealizing the past, That means, like, not being honest about, like,
Mhm.
how things ended,
Mhm.
isolation, continued jealousy
Mhm.
about where they are now,
Yeah.
where they were then,
Mhm.
lack of interest in new relationships, depression or anxiety, recurring dreams or nightmares,
Mhm.
unresolved feelings. Um, Anybody listening to this, I'm slowly flipping my page. Staying connected with mutual friends relevant to your ex. Now that
Mhm.
could just mean you made some good friends in the relationship.
Right.
But I have that there because you want to stay connected to those people without
Right.
checking up on that other person. If you're
Mhm.
only friends with that person in order to be connected to that ex,
Come
then
on.
that's not the best approach.
Right.
And then holding on to mementos, so things that remind you of that person. You're not over them,
Mm.
but we have to keep assessing what that goal is.
Yeah.
Get through the pain of that. Maybe you can keep the mementos because now you have a different
Mm.
relationship to
Mhm.
them.
Mhm.
If it's so that you can cling on to the past, like the past never, it's so that you can
Yes.
cling on to the relationship like it didn't change in form.
Yeah.
That's not what we
That's
want to be doing.
exactly.
Tiff, what's our question
Okay, I'm
for
excited
today?
about this one. So, our question is, I have been broken up with my ex for nearly 5 years now,
Mm,
and I've been with my current partner for a year. A lot of what my partner does reminds me of my ex. I told him this, and he said I'm not over my ex if I compare the two. That made me think a lot. I would say that I do have some trust issues, and it has been a challenge to trust my heart, and that there won't be any it has been a challenge to trust my heart and also trust that there won't be any dishonesty or infidelity.
mm.
I really want to be open and I want to heal. Am I not over my ex though? I thought I was. I need some help. Please help me.
Oh, first of all,
My
this person
heart.
sounds so genuine and loving and
Self
thoughtful,
aware.
self-aware, open. So you do sound
Yeah.
heart open. You
Mhm.
don't sound like you're closed. It
Yeah.
sounds like, kind of what we were talking about.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think in our culture we don't have a way of describing what it means to move through the pain of the previous experience but still have some of that residual
Yes.
trauma.
Yes.
It's not maybe I mean, okay, you could not be through the pain of the ex, but that doesn't mean you want the ex back. Only you
Mhm.
could say with honesty and truthfulness whether or not you want to be back with the ex.
Mhm.
Some of what I think you're experiencing is the residual that comes from the grief and the trauma of the loss. And so
Mhm.
the trust issues, the things that happen maybe toward the end of the relationship could be coming up because it is a challenge to lean in and love again after you've been hurt. But
Mhm.
it almost sounds like you're not in denial. You're not, if we were just looking at the stages of grief, you're not angry, you're not any of those things. You might be just in this other part around
Mhm.
acceptance and integration
Mhm.
where you are now leaning back into allowing that final ultimate change of form, which would be
Yeah.
to love again.
Right.
And so you may not want the ex back, but are you fully through that pain?
Mhm.
You will be on the other side of that pain once you lean into loving again.
Mm. That leaning in is so important. Getting through the grief of that ex and making a choice because I don't think it's a passive thing that
Yeah.
you get through these things. You have to make the choice
Yeah.
to lean in and
Yeah.
love and allow someone else to love
Yeah.
you.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
So as a therapist, Mo, how like what would you suggest for a person, at a phase in their life where they have come to the recognition that they aren't over their ex, like, and that it may be impacting them in ways that they're aware of or not aware of. What is like a practical tool, moving into our hashtag love resource that they can use or do?
Thank you. It's
Mhm.
hard. I think what I recommend and what
Mhm.
something that I would do is an exercise that I call like journaling. We'll call
Mhm.
it journaling about your ex or emotional journaling. But just writing down, literal physically writing down on pieces of paper what you're grateful for about that relationship, what you learned in that relationship with the ex, what were painful moments of that relationship. Really trying to write this broad spectrum of experiences, feelings, thoughts about the relationship. Anything that's coming to you. It's specifically focusing on thoughts and feelings around the breakup as well, because that's a lot of what's needing to be moved and healed. And when you've written down all that you can, and all that's coming to mind, all that's caused you pain, and all that you've appreciated, I want you to actually burn those pages up. Not out of anger, upset, none of that. Out of gratitude. Because what I want you to repeat as you are burning the pages up is going to be something around release. You're going to repeat an affirmation like, this relationship is complete. I am thankful for the lessons, the love, and the growth. I am well. I am complete. So this exercise is really around releasing the energy of that relationship and really allowing yourself to lean into the possibility of the present moment. Sometimes we need a ritual around that in order to be able to do it. Because when you think about the end of a relationship as a ritual, it changes how you think you have to move forward. Moving forward to another relationship ends up having to be just as intentional as the ritual of ending in order for it to have the umph behind it in order to move us forward.
I absolutely agree. And it made me think, like, I'm not necessarily that you need to have a funeral for your ex, but if you think about when a person does transition, or when a person passes away, that rituals are often things that happen, whether it's a funeral, a memorial. It's hopefully something that intentionally honors their life and honors who they were, what they meant to you. And for me, those things are abundantly important to help me to get on the other side of that and really love and honor that person, that relationship, the lesson that was learned or whatever.
And this aspect of mutual respect that we carry as a high value in our relationship has to carry into the life after, not afterlife. I love this analogy though around grief. But the life after that relationship, that mutual respect. You know how they say don't talk bad about dead people. Don't talk bad about your exes. Respect who they were in your life. Don't think about who they are now. They're no longer in relationship with you. They're no longer in covenant with you. That contract ended. Honor and respect who they were as they existed in your life, even if that meant that on a spiritual level, you all only got together to learn some hard lessons together. And then in doing that, honoring the relationship, you free up your own energy, honestly.
Yeah, you really do.
You will stay emotionally tied to a person you are still holding hostage with anger and unforgiveness and dishonor, disrespect. It really holds you hostage. You're not able to move on. You're not able to love again. You deserve love. So allowing yourself to move on from your ex through mutual respect and compassion and speaking on their name with positivity, that's going to help you move forward. That's going to help you shift the energy much quicker than animosity would. So Tiffany, our truth or truth today, I'm going to ask you this.
Okay.
Would you rather date an ex again for a year and have it end the same as before? Get that ex in your mind that you're thinking about. Would you rather have it end the same as before or go on 52 bad dates with new people? That means a date a week with 52 bad dates with new people each week. You got the question?
I got the question. I think I got the answer. I'm going to have to choose to date my ex again.
Yeah.
Because what I know
They were
about
that special,
myself,
huh?
they were special. And in thinking about honoring who they were to me when we were in relationship, they were great. They really were. And I really can't say bad things about my exes or this particular ex that I'm thinking about. Now, things happened and transpired that weren't necessarily the best, or that I
Would you go through that heartbreak and everything again at the end?
I would. Because one, I don't have patience to go on a date a bad date every week for a year. That feels like heartbreak. Okay.
Yeah, it can be so
I can't,
defeating.
because I'm a person that I'm not always that vulnerable, but I do really put myself out there when I go on these dates. So if I'm going on these dates not knowing they're going to be bad dates, this is me constantly being like, okay, this going to be the good one. I can't do that for 52 weeks.
That is heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking. I'm going to have to deal with the devastating heartbreak that I have.
Yeah.
To date the ex again for a year.
I guess it's gonna be a triple date with the ex again for a year.
Because baby.
Because where I'm gonna be.
Ooh. Now thinking about it makes my heart flutter a little bit. But I mean, out of these two options, that's the one I'm gonna take.
It is really hard to sign up for the end of that again. You know?
It's the end. It's the end.
But then when you think about loving people and then losing them, how many of us wouldn't take another year with the person that we have lost, whether it's in death or whether it's the loss of a relationship through the transition of that relationship? How many of us wouldn't take that love again just for a finite amount of time, just to have it again? I think so many of us would, or at least the romantic inside of me is like, I'll take that for a year. I was giving you a hard time, but I am not going on 52
I already
new
knew
dates.
what your answer was going to be. You did not fool me for 1 second.
I am not going on 52 new dates. I enjoy dating, but if the comparison is with a love that like is beautiful and it ends the way it ended, I've already been through that before, so it won't be the same as it was the first time. Yeah, I already know this is coming, but see, that's the thing. This is what we're asking people not to do.
Yeah,
is go into new relationships kind of hesitant because of how you know it's going to end. And I think with those different tools, it could prevent having those tools around how the relationship ended before. As long as they're good tools, you'll still be able to be in the relationship with an open heart. I think sometimes the tools are not good though. And so that's where people are hesitant. Right. They'll go in saying, well, I know this is going to end, so I'm going to come in halfway. That way I don't get hurt. And it's just like, then you don't really get to experience the fullness of the relationship.
So hopefully the context of this question is that you go back and be with your ex for a year, not knowing that it's going to end, like not knowing ahead of time it's going to end how it did.
That's not what it says.
Well, you know, with Would You Rather, you got to add your own context.
I don't think that those are the rules. So y'all don't get to change
Mr.
the
Rule follower.
I am done with you all for today. I love you all. This has been Be Your Own Love Goals podcast with Moe Ari
and Tiffany.
Thank you all so much. Have a great day and be well.
Bye. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Video episodes are on YouTube and Spotify.
If you want your question included in an upcoming episode, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Be Your Own Love Goals or check out our website at lovegoalspodcast.com. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
Bye.